Well, hello.
Hi there.
Hey, look who I found.
We were very fortunate to end up with some legends, and so we thought we'd turn on a camera and capture.
Certainly.
It's really rare.
No.
We just came out of a session on augmented reality, so I'm here with Cynthia Solomon and
Hi,
Edith
Cynthia.
Ackermann.
Hi, Edith.
Hello.
And Edith, you made an amazing comment in there. The world needs to be repeated. And then we started talking about Piaget and your work doing his actual tests. You worked with Papert, you worked with Piaget. I'm surrounded by Constructivism. I'm in Constructivism heaven.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really exciting. So,
And you? Introduce yourself.
I'm a student of this theory. I'm Warren Buckleitner, editor of Children's Technology Review, and we're here at the Sandbox Summit at MIT. And so there's so many questions to ask or comments, but I think we should just say, what is your reaction? It's 2015. We've seen so much change. Moore's Law has done its work. What is any thoughts coming out right now at the state of technology in children?
Well, what strikes me most, even more than the technocentric talk about, all the possibilities with augmented realities and more sensors and more this and more that, is the rhetoric. And that is something that I care more and more about because I grow older. I have seen waves of different technologies coming down the pipe, and each time I hear the same rhetoric of why it's good and why it's going to be the best and why it's going to be the only one and why it's going to help educators. The term learning gets forgotten. Teach better, how it's going to be better for our children's safety and so on. And because I have this training as a Piagetian actually, and I sometimes think also about the point of view of the children, and I sometimes think also about the learning and not just the teaching, and because I like to think about how children themselves learn to make distinctions in the world, I get tired about the rhetoric. And just one example is, all the examples they gave were about, making the children sort of realize all the horrors that we have actually given them to inherit without even thinking that the children make different distinctions in the world. They don't get confused because they have new techs and old tech. For them it's the same. When I was a child, it was mysterious to switch on a light and then, whoops, the bulb goes on there. There is no clear connection, So all this to say that I get very, very discouraged when I realize that in the rhetoric of the marketeers, but more and more also of the academics,
It is a constant.
it's all about how to track the kids' outcomes. It's all about outcome driven, but not from the point of view of the children.
So if Piaget were here right now,
He would just talk very loudly about what he has always been saying, and I think so would Seymour.
and what would he
So
say?
I give it over to Cynthia. Well, Piaget is very clear. Piaget is genuinely interested, and I say is because he's still alive for me. What the hell? He was genuinely interested in the genesis of thinking in children and of becoming intelligent, meaning to adapt to one's world. And he was genuinely interested in the sensory motor grounding of constructing knowledge. He was still more focused on knowledge construction rather than the whole child development, but be it as it is. And he helped me understand that each time when you impose a category on a child, you first have to look at how the child understands it. They have a different, very robust and very adaptive worldview that is consistent, and that responds the best it can to their views. So many of the research that we have been doing has to do with how they begin to differentiate what's alive, not alive, what's artificial and real, what's play and not play. So if you actually look at the child herself as an epistemologist and try to understand how she makes the distinctions between high-tech, low-tech, virtual, real, digital, analog, then you begin to have an entry point into even the kinds of technologies they would like, and it gets completely lost in this
So
rhetoric.
a lot of this work has been done already.
Yeah.
Groundwork has been done theoretically, and it merely needs to be mapped onto the new media.
Yeah, and Cynthia knows much more about the technological side of it, of how the children themselves
If I was,
make all these distinctions.
if,
I give it to you.
yeah,
Well, I'm not very verbal, shall we say, but I want to carry on with what Edith said, and that is, the distinction that was made this morning between play people and game people seemed absurd to me. One of Seymour's favorite comments that he got from a child was, "This is hard fun." Mm-hmm. And that meant that what the child was engaged in, somebody may have thought of it as a game, somebody may have thought of it as play, but the child was needing to bring a whole lot of different mental, emotional, physical aspects to the problem. And it made it hard fun to find a solution or a non-solution, to come to some sort of conclusion. What I keep being struck by is most of these people don't seem to know what it's like to work with a child. And that's one of the industry problems, is they think that if they do a survey, that's research. Now they know how people think. What people say they think is not necessarily how they think. And what Seymour was really, really interested in is how people think. And what was interesting, I spent a lot of time trying to find things that would attract different children, because I went on the assumption that kids are very different. Their learning styles are different, their strategies are different. And so what the computer gave us was a very broad base so that they could all find a way of interacting. I remember working with some kids that like to do very, very little things one at a time, and other kids liked to have a top-down approach, and others just like to fool around, and from their fooling they would discover, and then it would lead them to something very interesting. The point is, kids want to learn, and they want to have mentors of some sort that they can rely on. That's why Seymour was very enthusiastic, I think, in the 70s, you were there, when he went to Brazil and was struck by the samba schools.
Yes.
And now Edith speaks Portuguese, so she can go there and really understand. But he was really thrilled that you didn't have to go back to sort of the hunter kind of experience, that here was the samba school where children learned from without being taught necessarily, although they were taught. But they could do a lot by looking at what the older people did, and they were...
So I think what you're saying is that these are really simple ideas, that the idea of play and the idea of constructing knowledge are as relevant today as they have ever been.
Yes.
And that shouldn't be lost in the conversation.
No.
And it can be...
that's when Seymour decided, well, first Seymour decided that children needed something concrete to play with, so turtles came along, both physical and screen turtles that a child could talk to, identify with, and debug with. And then that wasn't enough, so he came along with, well, Lego came to him. And what a great opportunity to make things that children could build and then program. And Edith was very involved, and still is, in that. And now there are lots and lots of things that kids can now build. And
well, one of the fun questions to ask you guys is neither Piaget or Papert were able to really use an iPad and the tablet as it is today. What do you, if you could take an iPad back to the first time you met Piaget, what do you think he would say about how it should be used? And I guess the same question would go for Papert.
Well, I am not sure.
What about maybe the construct of multi-touch, the idea that you can manipulate the graphics?
I am not sure that I can answer this question. I can better answer what's common in these two pioneers' views about the fact that the best way, and that's Marvin Minsky who says it better, for anything to have any meaning at all, you need to be able to give it at least three meanings. Meaning that you need to be able to approach it from different perspectives. So, even in the Samba School, the reason why the Samba School, I think, would please both of our masters is because, for example, when they play, what they do is that they vary who is the soloist at some moment and when they have to move back into the chorus. So you're in a different role. But then they also vary the kind of instrument that the person plays. So you hear the music through let's say, one kind of rhythm, and then you hear it through another kind of rhythm, so that once you went along, you get a thick and deep understanding or entry point into the music to be played. And also the teaching came more through the setting in which people actually took on these different roles. And the same goes for teaching and learning of early mathematics or, even geometry. I think what was great with the microworks that Seymour invented is, to me, even more than just the fact that they had the computer, is offer the different entry points to think about deep mathematical ideas and geometry and embodiment and so on. So, if I go back to the tablet, I think it would probably be used in the kinds of clinical exploration that we did with the children as one of the possible media through which we get to understand how the child understands either the possibilities of the tool itself or some phenomenon. Because, Seymour said it, you learning about something, some phenomenon that they are interested in, and that using, instead of just drawing or gesture and words, which were the usual mediation, it could be.
So it's merely another tool?
Yeah.
Well, I come from a slightly different point of view. I want to emphasize what was so intriguing and wonderful about teaching kids to program, and that is debugging, that they got feedback of a different sort than a teacher standing saying that's wrong.
Yeah.
With a computer, there's nothing wrong. And that's what they're trying to emphasize now. It's a bug. And your job is to debug. And it may be that the bug creates something so magnificent you want to keep the bug. Because that happens all the time. But as far as tablets are concerned, we always hated the keyboard, QWERTY and all of its loveliness. And we were always looking for other ways to input information. We also, in 1969 or so, we were interacting with Alan Kay. And Alan Kay had a vision of a tablet. And this was published in Scientific American in '72.
The Dynabook.
The Dynabook, which was a
$500 computer.
which was a very, very powerful computer. So that was something that was in our worldview. So a tablet, the problem with a tablet is it's not yet powerful enough, but it will be. I mean, a logo could run on it. Scratch can't run on it because of Flash. And so Scratch will take care of that. But other things, sorry.
No, it's an honor to sit between two
I just want
giants.
to save Bernie. I thought that it was very important to me, this slide, where he makes the distinction between playing games just because of the way he did it. Because the way he did it is whose agency? Yes, who is defining the rules? And when he talks about play, he talks, it's synonym to Seymour's hard fun. I just had to say Bernie because I think it was profound.
And I want to say one thing, that the work that we originally did with children was influenced very much by the work Seymour was doing with Marvin Minsky on how to make machines intelligent. And the work we did with children influenced that as well, because we had children talking. We anthropomorphized the work, and children talked to computers. We had little people conversing with one another, and they were the beginning of ages. And that was back in the 60s.
Yes. We are the oldies, nostalgic oldies.
Well, thank you guys. It's a delight to talk with you.
Once we get going, you know, you can't stop us and don't interrupt us. Yes.
All right.
We also know that Papert, or that Piaget smoked a pipe.
Yes.
Did it bother you?
No. And if you go see, I have to do my selfie. If you look at the video in the Media Lab about Papert, the only adult that you see besides Papert is me. I was beautiful with red hair. So if you go
I haven't looked at it.
I was astonished.
The acoustics,
I didn't recognize
the
myself.
acoustics are so bad. You have to stand in one place in order to hear the acoustics.
And was Seymour Papert absent-minded?
Not when he flew an airplane.
Yes, he was. I'll tell you.
Not there.
No.
I took it once with
Well,
Olivier
the one thing Seymour did is he had a crash. He went to pick up an airplane that he and someone else bought, and he crashed it in the Panhandle.
That would be a bug.
And the bug was, he asked them if the tank was full, and they said yes. But it turns out that with experimental planes, that means it's 3/4 full. And he forgot to stick his finger in the tank.
The moral of the story is fly with a behaviorist, not a constructivist.
Seymour was a constructionist.
I know, that's true. That's true. Thank you for the correction.
Thank you very much, Cynthia.
You guys are
Thank
great.
you, Edith.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Warren.